All right, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Another lesson with ops today. And today is probably going to be one of the most important lessons you'll ever learn in Mortal Kombat. I know I say that a lot, but this is actually, I would say one of the more important lessons to learn in fighting games. So, I get a lot of the times a lot of people saying things like, hey, I don't I can't do good at this. I'm not good at this. I can't do this. I can't do that. Right? Well, coming from someone who has competed, I can 100% tell you that you can pretty much do anything in a fighting game outside of some very minute things. Like, you can make the argument that reactions are probably something that at a certain point you can't master, right? And even then, I would make the argument that you can train yourself to react to certain things even as you get older, right? There are top players right now that are still playing fighting games to this day that are in their 40s, and they're still playing fighting games. They're still playing them. They're still reacting to things. They're still training their brain. So, what is the most important thing that makes you get good at fighting games? What is the most important thing that makes you become a good player? Well, it's two things. The first one is consistency. The second one is patterns. So, a very, very easy way to intertwine these two things together is practice mode. And I cannot say how many times I hear people say they don't practice, right? So think of it like school, right? When you're at school and your teacher teaches you how to do something, how to, or teaches you a subject, for example, right? Teaches you science. When you're in school, right, and he's teaching you, you learn, right? But the way you get better at knowing the subject is also doing your own independent studying, spending time looking at, your textbook, going over quizzes, things like that. That's what the practice mode is. I get a lot of people all the time are like, Ops, you're not reacting to this. Ops, you're not countering this. Well, it's because when I was in school, I actually did not learn very well in the actual classroom. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just how my brain is. Like, I just don't pay very much attention in the classroom, right? Real time, I tend to struggle a little bit more when it comes to learning something very quickly. Now, once I have a good grasp of it, I can learn very quickly. For example, I can play Mortal Kombat and then go play a Street Fighter game, and if the guy doesn't know what he's doing, I'm going to beat him because I know fighting game fundamentals. I've learned them from Mortal Kombat 11. That's actually how I got my top in DNF Duel. I've used concepts from Mortal Kombat to get good at other fighting games like DNF. So I spent a lot of time in the practice mode trying to figure out how to deal with things, trying to react to things like throws, certain overheads, certain spacing, things like that, right? So I learn a little bit differently than other people. But the reason why I say that consistency and patterns are key to Mortal Kombat and fighting games is because no matter what, eventually once you keep doing something enough, your brain is going to be able to do it without thinking. Your brain is going to be able to think faster because you have trained your muscle memory to do certain things in certain situations. So for example, if I'm Katana here, and I'm actually going to make this video very short today because it's very, very easy to understand. And this is one of the number one concepts that if you want to get good at fighting games, you need to understand. Because I will tell you right off the bat, the highest level, not the highest level players, but even the players that you really struggle with, like the players that are really good, they don't even practice as much as they should be practicing. I don't even practice as much as I should be practicing, right? When I'm saying practice, you literally need to practice whatever issue you're struggling with every single day and then apply it when you're playing the game. if you want to get really good at fighting games, this is how you get really good at fighting games, because this goes across every board and every single field of study. If you want to get good at something, you have to practice that particular thing consistently every day and not miss a day, even if it's 10-15 minutes a day, and then implement it into your game plan as soon as you start playing. Now, does that mean that you need to play 40 hours? I'm exaggerating, 10 hours a day? No. But what that means is you need to put time to put 15 minutes into practicing one specific thing, and then when you go to play the next time, practice it for another, or focus on it when you're playing, right? So for example, there's going to be days where maybe you don't want to play, or there's going to be days where maybe you don't have enough time to play. Well, spending some time in the practice mode just practicing a specific pattern and spending a little bit of time in the ranked mode is going to make you a better player in the long run, because you're going to have that muscle memory trained. So for example, a good example is anti-airs. I always use anti-airs because they're the perfect example, right? If you have trained anti-airs, you should instantly be able to react and know exactly what you need to do, right? So for example, I could do a down two here. Down two will always anti-air, right? But obviously I need to train my brain to do a more complicated anti-air like this, right? Oops, dropped it. Now these jump kicks are still broken, but... And I've literally practiced doing this every day. Yeah, the other one doesn't work as often. That's why I don't use it as often. Yeah, I whiffed. But anyway, like I practice this particular anti-air every day. And the reason why I practice it every day is because if you look at this anti-air, this is a very complicated anti-air. I have to do like stand 2, down back 3, call my cameo, forward 4. I have to do all these complex things. I'm not going to do this in a match right off the top of my head unless I train it literally every day. You have to train things like this. You have to train things like anti-airs. You've got to train things like reacting to throws. These aren't things that are just going to come to your head, right? They're going to take hours and hours of practice, sometimes hundreds of hours of practice just to get down. This is how you get good at anything, right? That you can't just one day wake up and be like, I'm going to react to throws. It doesn't work like that. You can't wake up one day and be like, I'm going to anti-air every jump in. You can't be like one day, oh, well, I'm going to play perfect footsies. I'm always going to sweep at this particular range, right? These are things that you have to practice. You have to practice them, right? You have to practice them. You have to. Whether it be in-game, there are some people that learn faster in-game, and there's some people like me that have to spend time in practice mode getting these things drilled into their brain to where they can implement them when they're actually playing the game. And this is important to understand. Yes, as you get better, you will be able to learn faster and you won't have to spend as much time in practice mode. But I honestly think the best players still spend a lot of time in practice mode because there's like a specific thing that they're trying to learn that they have to drill into their brain. They have to drill it in, I just really think that that's the best way you can get good at fighting games. Besides playing players that are clearly better than you and, spending time in ranked, you know what I mean. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that if you're missing consistency in something, the only way you're going to get better at getting this consistency down is if you spend time drilling it. You spend time focusing on it when you're playing. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. Kind of just to break off the last part with patterns. The only reason I mentioned patterns is just simply because if you're anti-airing and you train your brain to anti-air, you have to train your brain to not anti-air, right? So like if someone's doing a dive kick or a teleport, you have to train your brain not to anti-air. So that's all fighting games is it's patterns and breaking patterns. If you can do both those things, you'll be good at fighting games. That's just how it is. There's, smaller things like footsies and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it really is just patterns and consistency and breaking patterns, which is part of patterns. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. Hopefully you guys learned something. I know I didn't really show anything, but this is something that I've thought about a lot, and I've seen it consistent across a lot of top players. And I've also seen it in my own, my own self when it comes to like training and getting better and seeing myself improve over time. So have fun playing fighting games, have a good fight, and I'll see you guys in the next tip.